I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the Darug land in which I am on today. I would like to pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging and recognise their ongoing connection to land, waters, and culture. Wow, can you hear the kookaburras? I wonder what other Australian animals we can hear and explore. Today we'll be taking a deep dive into Kevin the koala's life and how all his animal friends helped him overcome his fears and adapt to change. The book we will be exploring is The Koala Who Could, written by Rachel Bright and illustrated by Jim Field. Uncling, the crowd called that had gathered below. Leap and we'll catch you, just let yourself go. But Kevin was scared. Let go? No, I shan't. I won't climb on Kevin. Oh dear, I just can't. Woof. Down came the tree with a cracking and pinging, crash and a wallop, with Kevin still clinging. Kevin, he carefully opened one eye and looked up at the love staring down from the sky. The one claw by one claw he slowly unclung. He felt springy and light and happy and young. The worst he could think of had just come to pass, and he was just fine. Why, he felt quite first class. So when Wombat held out the most welcoming paw, Kevin, he didn't hold back anymore. The Koala Who Could follows the traditional structure of a narrative, starting with an orientation, complication, a resolution, and a coda. It tells a story of a koala named Kevin who spends all day and night clinging to his gum tree, despite his friends trying to lure him down to go on adventures with them. He secretly feels left out, but he perceives the world as far too dangerous until his tree falls down and he is forced to face his fears. He learns that adventure is not as scary as he thought and enjoys new experiences. It is written from a third-person perspective as the book reads as a narration of Kevin's thoughts, emotions, and experiences. The main themes explored and represented within the storybook include how Kevin was able to overcome his fears. The book explores how Kevin was forced to overcome his fear and how it overall benefited him in the end. This is a crucial theme for students to see and understand within text as it develops ideas of resilience. Alongside this, the second theme explored within Bright's book is how Kevin was able to embrace change. Kevin always felt left out because he was too scared to change. However, when he was able to overcome this fear, he ended up figuring out how he could do whatever he wanted to do. There was a beautiful quote at the end of the book that encapsulates this, because life can be great when you try something new. Lastly, Bright's storybook is centered around how his friends were able to encourage him and support him, adapting to his changes. Furthermore, by introducing other Australian animals as his friends, also opened up opportunities to explore these animals in this unit of work. The book is told from Kevin the koala's point of view. The reader is positioned to observe Kevin's behaviours, emotions, and experiences through the lens of a third-person narrator, and the authorial voice reflects a limited third-person perspective, focusing primarily on Kevin's thoughts and feelings. The language is light and uses rhyming as a literary device to engage young readers. The written and visual language work collaboratively to enhance the storytelling and convey themes effectively. Using this page as an example, Kevin's dialogue reads as, "I won't climb on Kevin. Oh dear, I just can't." From this written language, the reader can conclude that Kevin is clearly terrified, and this is supported by the illustrations, where Kevin is seen clinging to his tree with his eyes shut and a scared expression. The sentence structure in The Koala Who Could varies throughout the story, with few simple sentences and a strong presence of compound sentences. Written in past tense, the story describes events that have already happened to Kevin. The word choice is vivid and descriptive, and the language includes a lot of rhyming, which makes the story engaging and memorable for young readers. Kevin is the main character within the book. He's initially introduced as a skeptical and sedentary character that is described as the king of staying still kings. However, by the end of the book, with the support from his friends, he becomes more confident and joins in on activities. It is set in outback Australia. The illustrations display prominent Australian terrain like the red dirt, dry desert land, and specific Australian flora and fauna like Kevin's gum tree. Bright's storybook directly links to the target class's geographical location, as they are located in a rural town in the middle of the outback, therefore providing opportunities to connect to learning and find it more meaningful. The illustrated image is dynamic, depicting Kevin clinging to his tree while his friends look up, encouraging him to come down. Kevin is portrayed as smaller and positioned higher in the image, creating an exaggerated sense of distance between him and the animals below. This distance visually represents Kevin's fear as it's from his perspective, making his reluctance feel larger and more intense. The image reads from left to right, from ideal to real. The ideal situation with Kevin facing his fears and leaving the tree, and the real truth of Kevin being too scared and staying in his tree. Additionally, the image offers rather than demands, as none of the characters make eye contact with the reader, inviting us to observe rather than participate directly. The use of frontal angle fosters a sense of involvement, drawing the reader into the scene as a part of the group, encouraging Kevin. Meanwhile, Kevin's elevated position above the reader and the animals below suggests he has control over his actions. though this foreshadows his eventual lack of control when the tree falls in the following scenes. Colour is used to convey meaning, where the group of animals are depicted in more warm tones, in contrast to the cooler tones on Kevin and the tree, suggesting his isolation. Lastly, the gaze of the animals directing upwards naturally draws the reader's attention to Kevin, establishing him as a focal or salient point of the image. These are some of my favourite phrases from The Koala Who Could. These display Kevin's progress from the beginning to the end of the book. They also serve as a reminder to students that in order to grow, you need to challenge yourself despite fear of failure. Students will explore the difference between simple and compound sentences through The Koala Who Could. By developing their sentence structure and understanding surrounding syntax, students will be able to effectively create written text. In the main activities, students will move to more independent activities where they'll consolidate their understandings by writing simple sentences based on images from The Koala Who Could on their mini whiteboards. Then students will make their sentence into a compound sentence by using coordinating conjunctions. Moving on to the oral language lesson, they will develop their ability to orally articulate their understanding surrounding narratives. Students will choose one location Kevin will be found in to creatively write about. Every student needs to verbally present their creative story idea by beginning with the prompt Kevin woke up in. Following on from the oral language activity, students are to write their creative narratives. At the beginning of the lesson, students will be reminded of a narrative structure. And firstly, students will need to draw and colour a picture of Kevin in the setting they will write about. Then students will begin writing with the prompt Kevin the Koala woke up in. With reference to the creative writing lesson, appropriate adjustments have been made in order to support the working towards students and extend the working beyond children. Firstly, working towards students will sit on the floor in a group with the teacher. They'll jointly construct a narrative based on an idea and setting that is meaningful to them as a group. The teacher will model how to structure their ideas and the students will copy in their books. Additionally, working beyond students are provided with a checklist success criteria that includes the use of figurative language and varying sentence types. Alongside this, it introduces the students to editing their own work. The two related texts I would suggest in order to enhance students' learning based on The Koala Who Could are Wombat Stew and Cuckoo Kookaburra. Wombat Stew is written by Marcia Van Hart and illustrated by Pamela Lofts. It continues students' exploration of Australian animals and explores themes of friendship, much like The Koala Who Could. These develop social skills within Stage 1 and Stage 2 students. The second book, Cuckoo Kookaburra, written and illustrated by Greg Drills, the story follows a storytelling kookaburra who discovers the importance of kindness, which is vital a social lesson for students to be exposed to. It explores different Australian animals not found within The Koala Who Could, which directly relates to the unit of work. Alongside this, it provides students with an Indigenous perspective of land and animals found within Australia and highlights the deep connection to country Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders have, as well as introducing students to the concept of storytelling. To conclude, a cross-curricular KLA The Koala Who Could relate to is geography. Based off both the Stage 1 and Stage 2 syllabus, students will utilise The Koala Who Could to identify one Australian animal and research what they need to live and why they might live in Australia. As a class, students will discuss features of Australian environments. Students will create a label diagram of the animals' habitats, and they will begin to understand how environments provide what these animals need to survive. They will explore what makes Australia habitats unique and why they support different Australian species. The focus for Stage 1 will be describing how Australian environments are home to native animals and how people feel connected to these animals and places. The focus for Stage 2 will be identifying the characteristics of Australian habitats and explaining why certain animals can live only in these environments.